Hello there, friends. Welcome back to Dear Vana, where I address your questions and concerns about self-love and relationships. But more importantly, I discuss how to have a healthy relationship with yourself. I'm your host and personal self-love development coach, Shavonna Nicole. If you are new here, again, welcome. And please consider subscribing because I'd love to have you as a regular. Now, in today's episode, we have a question from Janice, and I am so excited to share with you today. So let's get right into it. Welcome back, everyone. Now, again, today's question comes from Janice, and she asked, Dear Vana, what is the difference between a life coach and a therapist? And how do I know if I need help from either? Well, thank you, Janice, for writing in, and you got straight into the point. I'm not mad at you at all. And I believe that you asked the right person, considering that I am a psychotherapist and also a self-love development coach or life coach. And so I do have an opinion on both, and I think I can put you in the right direction. So when we come back, I am going to give you my breakdown on what I think the difference between a coach and a therapist is. And then more importantly, though, how do you recognize that you may need help in that area from either, and how do you make that decision? So hang on tight, and when we come back, I'll get right into it. Welcome back, everyone. Now, I would like to start off this discussion with talking about the similarities between coaching and counseling or therapy. And so, the main difference between the two is that they're both there to aid you in the process of your growth, to either understand yourself better, to help you overcome a challenge, or to help you just be the best version of yourself. And so just know that if there's something that you want to be better at, if there's something that you want to understand about yourself, or a pattern that you would like to stop in your life, or a new habit that you would like to create, or whatever, they're both there to really aid you and to help you become the person that you want to be ultimately. And so just know that they're both there for you. And then another huge similarity is that you get to identify the goal. You're in the control seat and you get to say, this is what I would like the end result to be. And so just know that whoever you choose should be on board with you designing the goal. And then you pick the best person to assist you with that. And so even just to follow up with the last statement about you getting to choose the person, you choose the person that is the best fit for you. I do want to touch a little bit on the differences between the education in the profession, and just to give you some clarity on that. When it comes to coaching, I like to think of coaching more so as a consultant. So that being said, there's not necessarily a set piece of education that you need, or certificate, or anything like that that is required. The only thing that's required is that you can produce results and you know what you're talking about, and you want to help people instead of harming them. And so it's not as regulated as counseling is at this moment, but there are training programs, there is education that you can take. But ultimately, a coach can be someone who overcame a challenge in their own life, and they've created a system that not only works for themselves or has worked for themselves, but they've helped other people with similar challenges or similar circumstances get similar results. And so, just like any other consultant, they just got to be really, really great at what they do and can produce results. And so just know that there are certification classes, There are educational classes, but ultimately you want to find someone that can produce the results that you want when it comes to coaching. And so there can be a specific niche for that. So, you can have a weight loss coach, and it doesn't have to be a person who's had, years and years of expertise in necessarily fitness or nutrition, but it is a person that is able to produce and give you the results that you want. And you get to decide what their background can look like. But there can be like fitness coaching, nutrition coaching. There can be like a relationship coach, or like with me, self-love. There can be a business coach. The opportunities and the different areas are endless. And the same thing with counseling. There are different areas of counseling ultimately, but there is a pretty standard criteria. There is a system that you have to go through. There is licensure that a person who's practicing on their own or who works for themselves needs to have, state licensure. Each state kind of varies about the specific requirements, but ultimately it's the same. But you can choose to work with someone in counseling that has a background in psychology. You can work with a psychologist or a doctor. You can work with a social worker can be your therapist. There can be, like my background is in counseling and psychology. So you can work with someone who has a counseling background or a master's in that. So there is some variety there, but ultimately, a person who's gone through an accredited program or has a licensure or a doctorate or something like that is someone who is a legit therapist. And so just know that that's the difference. But ultimately, again, you get to pick the person that you feel most comfortable with and that you feel can help you achieve the results that you would like to achieve. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. But when we come back, I'm going to get into more of the differences, and then definitely to sum it all up, like let's figure out, how do you even know that you need help with either profession? All right, so stay tuned and we'll get right back into it. All right, everyone. So now let's get into some of the differences between coaching and counseling or psychotherapy. Now, with coaching, most times there is a time frame, a set goal, and a time frame. So, for example, a coach can say, if we go back to a weight loss coach can say, in my program, my 6-week program or my 8-week program or whatever, I can help you lose this percentage or help you gain this amount of muscle or lose this weight or help you with these habits. So usually they have a very clear goal, what they can help you with in a certain amount of time. And so they kind of stick to that, right? Like, yes, you choose the coach and a program that works for you, but they kind of laid it out for you already. Like, this is the program, this is the process, this is what I can help you with, right? Just like a bodybuilding coach or or if a relationship coach can say, I can help you get your first date, or help you navigate your first date, or help you not to sabotage relationships, or improve your relationship with your child, or something like that. But they've kind of identified the goal. They have a system, they have a program, and most times it's pretty structured. Again, even with these differences, I would encourage you to take it with a grain of salt, because everybody do have their own methods and their own theories and their own way of approaching it, but generally I'm just giving you some general ideas of some of the major differences between the two. So again, coaching is usually for a specified amount of time, a very clear goal, and a very clear process. On the other hand, therapy sometimes, most times, there's not necessarily a specific time frame because the client moves at their own pace, and a counselor supports that client in that they're not necessarily trying to push you faster than you're willing to go or that you're able to go. Sometimes detours are made based upon each week's progress. And so sometimes people are in therapy for years. Sometimes the goal may start off one thing and it may end up something else after certain sessions and making certain discoveries, or there might be a diagnosis there or something else there where things might take a detour. Most times coaching is not like that. And so that's a huge difference. And when you just think about time frame and the direction. And so the analogy that I like to use is kind of like, if you think about you in that profession, that professional in the car and going to the destination that you've set and you've identified. And so, with a coach, I like to think of that coach in the front seat, passenger side. You're still the driver, right? With both, you still have to do the work. But a coach is there, being your navigator. Make a left, make a right, maybe speed up or slow down or, whatever to help you get there, safely and to get to that destination. And so, with a therapist, if you take that same car, again, the driver puts in you as the driver puts in the destination. The coach is more so in the back seat and just kind of like your reflector, still there to support you, but more so, allowing you to make your own turns, figure out your own path to get there, pointing out certain milestones that you've made, or, reflecting back to you like, oh, maybe that wasn't a good turn. How do you feel about that turn you made? Do you feel like you're getting closer to your destination? So it's two completely different, approaches in that way. And so, you're the one who's pretty much coming up with the path that works best for you. And, sometimes therapists can say, maybe try this way, or, what do you think about trying this? Or, you've already went left. Do you think you want to try going right? And so if you just kind of think about that scenario, you can decide which approach works better for you. And so, again, if you're not working with a diagnosis where you might need more intense help or medication or medical help and something, you can make that choice still about how you want to get from A to B and kind of choose which approach works best for you. Some people just want to get the results. They don't necessarily want to explore on their own, the best route to get there. They kind of just want to be told, what to do, how do I get there, and how can you help me get there as quickly as possible. And so again, you get to make that decision. But so that is a difference between the two. And that's pretty much a big difference. Another difference is, with therapy, you can use your insurance to pay. A lot of the time, not all of the time, because some therapists don't take insurance or sliding scales and all of that. And most coaching, I don't think you'll find insurance for coaches. I could be wrong, but in my experience, I don't think most insurance take coaches or life coaches. And so just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you are trying to figure out the best fit that works for you. And when we come back, I think I'm going to get right into, again, how do you even know if you're at the point where you need help, right? Like, that's most important. Okay, now I know what the two professions do and maybe what to look for and, the biggest difference and similarities. But now let's get into, how do I even know that it's time for me to get some help? So stay tuned and we'll get right into that. All right, everyone. Now, last but definitely not least, I want to get into, how do you know if you're the one that needs the help? How do you know if you need to look into coaching or therapy? And the first question I want to just ask, or encourage you to ask yourself, is, am I functioning properly? Am I functioning in the best way for my life? Right? So, am I able to get to work every day? Or is something prohibiting me from even being productive at work? Is there something prohibiting me from having a stable job? Is there something going on where I can't sleep regularly, or I'm sleeping too much? Am I able to be a productive parent? Do I have the energy that I need to function throughout the day? Or am I falling asleep everywhere? Am I groggy? Are my relationships healthy, or do I always find myself in a toxic situation or arguing with multiple people? Am I always getting arrested? Am I always intoxicated? Um, and so ask yourself, are you even functioning in the best way for you, that you want for your life? So that's first and foremost a big sign that you need some additional help. The second thing I would say is, and it's kind of related to that, but not necessarily, but are there negative patterns in your life that keep resurfacing? Or even like negative people or relationships that keep resurfacing, and you can't figure out why you keep experiencing the same type of circumstance over and over. So the same type of toxic relationship, getting fired for the same type of things, maybe always being tardy or a bad attitude, over and over again, or only keeping a job for 6 months and not making it further than that, only keeping a relationship for no more than 6 months, or a yo-yo weight. You may lose weight, but then you just keep gaining it. And so you're noticing these patterns over and over and over again. And so if you're noticing these patterns and can't really put your finger on why you keep experiencing them over and over, or keep ending up at the same spot all the time, that's also a sign that you may need some additional help from a professional. The third thing is, do you feel yourself acting out, in ways that you wouldn't normally act out? And so finding yourself being explosive or being very reactive to certain situations, that's a sign that you may need some help. And noticing that there's some emotional instability there. And so that is definitely a sign as well that you may need some help in a particular area in your life. And then number 4, lastly, are you struggling with a known issue, right, that you've known about and you've tried several remedies already, or several home remedies, so to speak? So you've tried meditation, you've tried hanging out more, you've tried self-care, caring for yourself a little bit more. You've also tried self-medicating, maybe an overindulgence in sex or drugs, alcohol, pornography, anything to kind of distract yourself and try to fix the problem. And so, if you've tried all of these things, there's a known issue, but you still haven't been able to get the results that you want, you may need to look into getting additional help. So, those four things are the main things that you can look for to kind of identify, like, I need someone to step in and help me with this issue. Is really preventing you from having the life that you see yourself having, or maybe even keeping you from thinking that it's possible to have the life that you want to have. And so, really be honest with yourself about what you're experiencing, exactly where you are, exactly what you're struggling with. And once you can be honest with yourself, you can get to the root of the problem and see if you need additional help. So I hope that helps. And when we come back, we're just going to sum things up. Stay tuned. And we are back, friends. Now, I couldn't leave you hanging because you are my friends, right? I couldn't leave you hanging and wondering, how do I know if I need to work with a self-love development coach like yourself? And so I'm going to give you the lowdown on how do you know if you need to work on your self-love. And so there's several different factors, but more specifically with me, I work with those who need to work on their self-love by seeing the negative pattern of unhealthy relationships. So whether that's not being able to set boundaries in your relationships and you keep putting up with stuff that you don't like, that is a sign that you need to work with me. If you have a history of toxic relationships, whether that's just people not valuing you, not respecting you, and not treating you the way you want to be treated. And so there's a pattern of that, of you feeling like you need to settle and just wanting to be with anyone to not feel lonely. All of those are signs that you could work on your self-love. All of those are signs that you could benefit from working with me, and I would love to work with you. And so if you notice any of those patterns, again, a string of unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships, settling in your relationships, not being able to set boundaries, feeling guilty for setting boundaries, maybe even a codependent relationship, I would encourage you to reach out to me with the information provided in the description box. So you can email me at Shavonna@ShavonnaNicole.com. Again, the information will be provided in the description. But again, those are some of the key factors of the clients that I work with. And so if that fits you, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to explain to you more about how we can work together in the things that you can accomplish with us working together. Welcome back, everyone. Now, I would like to sum up today's episode on the differences between coaching and counseling, and then how do you know if you need help in that area. But I just would like to start off by pointing out again that take this with a grain of salt, in that every therapist has their own approach with their clients, as do coaches as well, right? Their own way of dealing with their clients, their own way of doing things, their own theories on things. But this is just from my personal background, my knowledge, and my education. This is my take on it. And so, coming from both worlds, this is something that I have found to be helpful in trying to figure out, what works best for you and how to kind of get your mind around what each field entails and how to pick the one best for you. So again, I want to just start off with the similarities, that they're both there to help you and that you're also in the driver's seat and you get to decide the goal that you want to achieve. And then also point out that you're the one that'll be doing the work. Neither professional will do the work for you, but that it has to be something that you want, that you're passionate about, and that you need to work to get. Both of them are just there to support you and to help to guide you or help you find your way. And then some of the biggest differences, again, is that in the approaches, coaching can be very specific and identify a goal and identify a time frame, and therapy not so much. And you get to pick the time frame and the goal and the direction, and that therapist is there to support you. And then for how do you know if you need help, right? If you need assistance, if this is something that is affecting your life in a negative way, if there's patterns that keep resurfacing, if you find that you've tried 6 different things and it has not worked out and you've ended up in the same spot, if you just can't figure out why you can't be the person that you want to be, it's probably time to seek some professional assistance. But then you get to decide the best method and approach that works for you to help you figure that out. And so, I hope that, I know today was probably a little bit loaded, so you may need to go back and listen to this again and with a pen and paper and take down some notes and write down some things that really stood out to you. But hopefully this was informative in helping you figure out the next big step for you and the next thing that's going to help you get closer to your goals and the person that you want to be. So, I want to thank you for tuning in today. And again, it is sincerely my hope and my wish is that this has aided you in some way in helping you get closer to your goals. So I want to just thank you again for tuning in, and I hope that today's session was beneficial for you and that you learned something and you gained something. And if that's the case, I would love for you to subscribe. I'd love for you to join me regularly, and then also if you'd like to have your question answered on this show, dear Vana, email me with the information provided in the description box as well. So until next time, friends, this is your host and your personal self-love development coach, Shavonna Nicole, reminding you to please practice self-love as it is your superpower. Talk to everyone again very soon.